My history with the Super Mario Brothers franchise is kind of peculiar, if I'm being completely honest. I've talked, I believe, in the past about my history with Super Mario Brothers. It was a game that I didn't play on the NES first. I actually saw it being played via Versus Super Mario Brothers on a coin-operated machine at a roller skating rink. And I watched someone play it and was blown away by how good they were at it and how they knew where all the secrets were. So when I tried to play it myself, I sucked at it. I was terrible at it and never really got better, even after getting my own NES a few years later. In fact, Super Mario Brothers is a game that I have never finished. I've been able to get to World, I believe it was 8-1 or 8-2. That's about as far as I get, and then I get too frustrated, and instead of throwing the controller around, I just turn it off. Super Mario Brothers 2 is divisive for me as it is for a lot of other players. It's a game that I really didn't like at all when it was relevant or when it was new. And even during the 1990s, when I had my bouts of NES collecting or NES playing, it never really resonated with me, to be honest. While the music certainly did, and I love the music in the game, some of the play mechanics really didn't jive with me, and it felt too different than the Super Mario Brothers that I had played before. So I just didn't dig it. I guess for me, and maybe it's because I'm a tourist, I don't know, but change, I really don't take too well to it. When you fix what wasn't broken, while some people call it innovation, for me, I just kind of consider it annoying, if I'm being completely honest. So Super Mario Bros. 3 was more of a return to form, the more typical side-scrolling left-to-right Super Mario adventure, and it was its own game. It was not converted from a former game. It's also the first Super Mario Brothers game that I ever played to completion. I actually did wind up beating the game. I don't know how. Granted, this was in 1991 that I beat the game for the first time, so that was 28 years ago. My skills have since much deteriorated, and if I was to play Super Mario Bros. 3 today, I would struggle with it mightily. In fact, there have been a few times I've tried to go back to it, and I don't get very far without getting frustrated. But it is a game that I hold in the highest regard. If I am ranking all of the Super Mario Bros. Games in order of preference, Super Mario Bros. 3 is going to be very high, in fact, at the top of the list. Super Mario World for the Super Nintendo is the next one in line, and is a game that also rings very highly with me. Being a launch title for the Super Nintendo, being a game that I did play quite a bit of, it is a game that I did finish, although I did not get to all the goals in the game, so I didn't 100% it. But I did play it, I did enjoy it. Although I did play F-Zero just a little bit more than Super Mario World, I still recognize it for being a great game. Then would come the Nintendo 64 in 1996, and Super Mario 64, a game that 99% of players will regard as a very innovative, groundbreaking, completely changed the way that Super Mario Brothers would play, setting it up in a 3D world where it was very open. You could go pretty much wherever you wanted to go. You could attack level goals in any way that you saw fit. And for me, I struggled with that much like I did Super Mario Bros. 2. In fact, if we're being completely honest, I don't put Super Mario 64 anywhere in my top 5 of Super Mario games of all time. That's just me. Now, I will admit that there is a small piece of this that is kind of emotional. I've talked in the past about how the Nintendo 64 and Super Mario 64 came out just before my paternal grandmother died, and she was a caretaker. She was a very good friend. She was someone I looked up to. She was probably one of the closest people I had had in my life to that point. So losing her really affected me in a lot of ways, and I fairly or unfairly associate her death with Super Mario 64 and the Nintendo 64 as a whole. So I have feelings about that game, and even if I put that emotion aside, just how different it is to the other Super Mario Brothers games was enough to make me struggle with it. Then for the GameCube, we saw Super Mario Sunshine, which is another game that I struggled with. I really didn't care for all that much. I didn't like the flood water mechanic. I didn't like the jetpack mechanic. It looked great and it sounded good. I liked the tropical vibe of the game, but again, it just never really clicked with me. So I had to wait until 2007 for a Super Mario Brothers game that would reinvigorate my love of the Super Mario Brothers franchise. And that would be the game that we're going to be opening in this episode of Unsealed. Now, it is the Nintendo Selects version of the game. It is not an original release. But nonetheless, it is still a brand new copy of the game that we'll open here for the sake of the show. And I can talk about my appreciation of and enjoyment of Super Mario Galaxy. This guy right here from 2007. When I played this game for the first time, something inside me, something emotional inside me just clicked, and I fell in love with this game almost immediately. Perhaps it was the fact that technically it was a very sound game. It looked great. Its animation was very smooth. It was 60 frames per second instead of the 30 frames per second we had seen on the Nintendo 64 and on the GameCube. So this was brand new. And I love this the outer space mechanic, the gravity mechanic, visiting different worlds. The music in the game is very much a nod to Super Mario Brothers 3 at times. There are references to Super Mario Brothers 3. There are quite a few of them in this particular game, and that may be a reason why I consider this one of my favorite Super Mario Brothers games of all time. So this is called a Mario Adventure of Cosmic Proportions. That's what the back of the case looks like. There is some motion control involved in this game, and we'll get to that in just a moment. If you haven't played this game, you're missing out. This game is fantastic for the Wii. I would love to see this remastered for the Switch if that ever happened. I'm not sure how they would make that happen because of the motion control, but it would be great to see it remastered, maybe up to 1080p, but that's just me begging for things that may or may not happen. So you launch through gravity-bending galaxies, shake and paint your way across alien worlds. Mario transforms. You can do Fire Mario, Boo Mario, or the very popular Bee Mario. You can play in co-op as well in this game, so that was pretty neat, although I almost always play games on my own. So let's go ahead and get this guy open, and we'll try and do this on camera so you can see it. I'll try and get that out of the light. Let's get the scissors fixed and try not to stab myself. There we go. There. I have one more bonus game I'll open for you in a little bit, too. This will be a two-fer episode. So we'll open this up. Again, this is the Nintendo Selects version, so this came out a bit later. It was a little bit cheaper to get. I got this at Retro World Expo back in September. When we open up the case, don't think there's going to be much surprising here. We're going to go ahead and turn the disc around. And I do think the one thing we miss, there's no real instruction manual in here. What we do is we get the Super Mario Galaxy disc, and then there's a virtual manual that you can access by going to Nintendo.com, which is kind of unfortunate. So it's up to me to really just talk about the game a little bit more. There is motion control in the game. That is probably my one complaint. I was never really a big fan of Wii Waggle, where you're just kind of shaking the Wii remote all over the place to make things happen. This is more of an IR pointer kind of experience, almost like a light gun game where you're absorbing star bits. So it's not that bad, but you do have to use the nunchuck and the Wii remote. You can't use the Pro controller. So if you're not used to holding a controller in each hand while you're playing, or if your arms get tired by holding them out, I can understand where that would be a little bit on the annoying side. But again, the game looks phenomenal. It still looks really, really good, especially on a tube TV like I have. The music is fantastic. I like the level design. There are some things, there are some minor puzzles in the game that really make you think outside the box. And the game is not something that you're going to breeze through in one sitting. It is definitely going to take you a little bit of time to get all the way through this game. And even then, you're probably going to miss some things here and there. Super Mario Galaxy is right up there, either number 2 or number 3 all time on my list of Super Mario Brothers games. It is one of the first games that I think about when I think about the Wii. I think about Wii Sports Resort, and then Super Mario Galaxy is like right there. Those are the top 3 I think that I think of. Maybe Super Mario Galaxy 2, which is more of an expansion of the idea, and then some of the light gun games, and I've opened a few of those on camera that you've seen. If you have not played these games and you have access to a Wii or even a Wii U, I highly recommend checking them out because they are definitely a trip worth taking. Before I end this episode, and we are celebrating the 13th anniversary of the Wii's launch here in the U.S. It came out on November 19th, 2006, and as of this taping, it's 11:53 p.m. on November 19th, 2019, so I've got a little bit of time left to go. We're going to open this game that I've had sitting for a little while, and I've been wanting to open it because when I found out what this game was, I realized I had to play it because, well, we'll get to it. This game is called Furu Park, and it looks like that is a Circuit City sticker for $20 on the top there. And it says here, 8 out of 10 Play Magazine. I believe that is Dave Halverson's project after Game Fan fell apart. So this is from Taito, and the back of the case says, spin it, shake it, swing it, even rev it. Your Wii Remote is your golden ticket to the Furu Park. From retro title classics to quirky new experiences, this collection of ultra-fun minigames features outrageous characters and unique gameplay challenges that will keep you moving. There are 30 minigames in all, including Arkanoid, Bubble Bobble, Sonic Blast Man, Pocky and Rocky, Pinch Hitter, Super Karate, Safecracker, Rev the Engine, Skateboarding, Camel Maze, Swan Runner, and many more. You can compete against a friend in 3 different multiplayer modes, including the Love Challenge, that lets you test your compatibility. What attracted me to this game was the fact that there are some representations of Taito arcade games. Arkanoid, Bubble Bobble, Sonic Blast Man, Camel Maze, which is basically Camel Tree, or On the Ball for the Super Nintendo, which we opened up in an earlier episode of the show. I heard from reviews, or at least if I've listened to reviews, that this game is pretty terrible. However, I have not played it myself, so I have not been able to judge it. It does allow for Pro Controller use, however, so I'll be playing it that way, you can be certain. This was a Majesco release, by the way, and the date on here is 2007, so this came out the same year as Super Mario Galaxy. So let's go ahead and open this up real quick and see what we can find out. Again, I have no information on this game other than reviews and what's on the back of the box, so we'll see if the instruction manual tells us anything. And I don't know if it will. There we go. Whee! And when we open up the case, oh, it's a very red/pink disc with the Furu Park manual in there. We'll take a look at that manual just briefly as this video is running a little bit long. There's an ad here for Cooking Mama Cook-Off. Cooking Mama is a really fun series. I know it's kind of mindless at times and relies a lot on motion controls or stylus control if you're talking about the DS games. But I admit, I spent a lot of time with Cooking Mama when I was playing a lot of DS games back in the mid-2000s. Let's take a look at the manual here. The manual is in black and white, so that's kind of too bad. You can play solo play or dual play. Let's see. List of the mini games. Oh, wow. Yeah, Arkanoid, Pocky and Rocky. You can hold the remote NES style. Same thing with Bubble Bobble, Dragonfly Hunter. So there's a fairly decent list of mini games here that you can try. Of course, I'm going to be the fan of the arcade games, but just being able to try all of these mini games, I love these mini game collections. Anything that has that WarioWare type feel, I think I'm going to gravitate to, and especially when you have arcade games represented, I'm going to be willing to give that a shot. I did not pay $20 for this. I paid, I think it was $8. So I think that that's a pretty good deal to get a brand new copy of the game in complete in case. So I'm going to be able to go ahead and add that to my library of Wii games. So that is it for this episode. I do want to take just a minute to address a potential controversy. Some of you have heard about the YouTube/COPPA situation, where there's a lot of child protection stuff that's going to be going on, and channels that will be marking themselves either exclusively for kids or exclusively not for kids. And there's a lot of gray area in there that you kind of have to err on the side of caution for. So the future of Unsealed is kind of in the air after December, I should say. So we have a few weeks left, and then we'll kind of see what's going on. I do have a lot of games to get to. I'm going to try and get to as many as I can before the December 31st deadline. I can't guarantee I'm going to get to all of them, and then we kind of have to see what happens. I'm hoping that the show doesn't go anywhere. I have had an absolute blast doing these shows since 2018. And I'm going to try and keep the show going as long as I can. But it is worth mentioning that with the COPPA situation and with YouTube changing its policies in terms of marking videos either exclusively for kids or exclusively not for kids, and because my viewership spans ages from 11 to 50, it is a very gray area and a very difficult one to navigate. So I will keep you posted on what's going on there. You can certainly follow me on Twitter, and I will let you know what's going on there. But just be aware. I'm going to try and get as many videos as I can out between now and the end of the year. And then in 2020, we're just going to have to wait and see where things go. As always, thank you very much for your support, for your time, for watching and checking out my work here on YouTube. I really appreciate it. And until the next time, my friends, take care of yourselves and each other, and we'll see you next time.